Welcome back. The question for this segment is, how do you develop and organize your content into your course, and what tools do you use? Angie, we'll start with you.
So I mentioned before that this is when you're developing your course, it's the fun part where you get to find all of these resources. I have to be really careful with myself and my organization at this stage, or else I will just have stuff everywhere. And I really try from the beginning to start to categorize things into what will ultimately be the different weeks of my course. So to do that and to be able to have flexibility to move things around, I put it all in one big Google Doc from the outset. And then I use headings to separate the different topics, and then I use links to move between things. So I can have a table of the beginning with all of my different weeks, and then I can just use the links on that to just jump down to where I need to be. And then I'll drop everything in there. Links to websites, videos, my own content that I create. And that just makes it really easy for me then. Later on, I can go back and just say, oh, I want to move this somewhere else. I can just grab it and move it. And it's easy for me to keep it all in that one big document.
Awesome. Emery, what are you doing?
Yeah, I do Google Docs also, and ends up being one very, very long Google Doc with, 16 sections, which are the equivalent of the 16 modules for the semester. And then when it comes to actually developing a course and organizing the content, since I'm often teaching courses that I've taught before, I'll import a previous course, and then I'll have two windows open really, and I do a split screen where in one screen I have the previous course, and on the other screen I'll have my Google Doc, and I can sit there and compare the two because there'll be some weeks where I'll go, I can just use the material that I had. I need to only add a few things, and there'll be other modules where I go, I just completely need to revise this, and I will start transferring things from the Google Doc resources from that over into the course that I'm designing. So I work off of both really, and that way I can take the best of what I've used previously and it gets updated, revised based on the new material that I've gathered from my research.
Awesome. I start my course with a sheet. I always, all those S words in Google, I always mess it up, but a Google sheet. And I use a sheet just because I like the table structure. So kind of similar to what Angie's doing with a Google Doc and moving things around. I start off in the sheet with several categories, like the listing of the modules, how many modules I'm going to have. Then there's a column for the name of the module, a column for the objective, a column for some of the readings, a column that looks at assignments or deliverables. And then I kind of start mapping my course that way so I can see everything at one time. And then after I've kind of exhausted, it's a very big Google sheet, but after I've kind of moved out of that, then I start into Google Docs. So I'll start taking the pieces that I have and copying and pasting them into a Google Doc. And that's where I start building out, all of the flowery pieces of the text, like the overview of the course, the objectives that are written out more fully, all of the readings are there. And then depending on how I'm building the course, I'll have one Google Doc or I'll separate it into the different units or the different modules using my Google Sheet to kind of network all of that together. So all the links go into my Google Sheet, and then that way I'll share the Google Sheet with other colleagues. So they can see what's happening. So my Google Sheet kind of drives what's happening in my docs. I'll also within my docs put in my templates. So if I'm creating a kind of a template for students to use, I'll have it there, and then that way I can move it out and use it in the different places. So, and then I'll also bring my Google Slides for my presentations. I put those links into my doc, and they also go into my sheet. So that way everything's really organized really well, and kind of I have a problem trying to find things after a while. I try folders and that works, but then of course something doesn't land in the folder because maybe I was on a different computer and it ended up underneath my personal account versus my school account. So having the sheet also helps me stay organized because all the links are there. Even if I don't get in the right folders, I have links from the sheet. So that's kind of the way I start my course and go from there. Other ideas we want to add on this one?
I'll only add that during the first couple of weeks of the semester, I continue to fine tune the course, and the modules for the whole semester will not be available. But as I get to know students, then I'll go back and say, I need to add some of the material here, some foundational material, or I can do something at a more advanced level based on their backgrounds.
Awesome. Anything else?
I would just add that once I start actually putting content into Canvas, I'm really careful with naming conventions because those files just start to grow and I have so many in there. So I'll clearly label them week one and then what it's titled to keep myself organized.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.